Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about being in your 30s. So let's get into it. So the question in question was posted on an old video that I made, which is called "Will programmers treat me differently if I am very young? If I am a very young developer?" And the question was, I have the direct opposite question. Will programmers treat me differently if I'm an older guy getting into programming at 36? Nope, usually not. The thing that you might face a bit of it really depends a little bit on the culture, depending on regions and so forth and preconceptions, but usually that this is not an issue in the serious IT companies because the the average software developer, the serious software developers, the real professionals who are still they're in the sweet spot, if that makes sense. This is where they get really, really good. They're usually in their 30s, practically all of them. You think that it's the 18-year-olds, 20 years old, something, something. No, it is usually the men and women who are in their 30s who are the best of the best, and practically all management is in their 30s usually. And that is because it takes, if you do the math, if you go all like through all the mainstream ways of getting into IT, you're usually going to be in your late 20s or in your mid 20s, or if you really go directly for it, in say the early 20s when you start programming. And it takes quite a few years before you get to that, not just the technical skills, guys, but the personal development and seniority and sense of self, confidence, etc., etc. To sort of maneuver all that and learn to be a real professional, it takes some time. And I mean, as an example, there's not that many 20-somethings that has the personal maturity to take on a role where you, like, say that you're an enterprise architect or some type of manager type, where you go into like a gigantic corporation and you go into the boardroom where there are people who are everything from, some people are in their 20s just starting out, and then you have people who are closing in on retirement age, who are literally, if they say so, like 1,000 people are going to get new jobs or they get fired. Like that sort of level of seniority in terms of management. And to go into that environment and sort of just perform and like know all the things and know how to talk to all these various people and so forth, it is usually in their in your 30s ish where you have that sort of then you've reached that sort of personal maturity. Most of the people that I work with are and have ever worked with are actually in their 30s when they get to go above the bare bone beginner stuff. So as a beginner, the only thing that you usually get when you're a bit older in terms of like when you start is that there might be some preconceptions related to, oh, you started so late. In my part of the royal world, the only thing that matters is skill. Practically nothing else. This is the thing that is sort of good about software development. There are prejudices against age to a certain degree, absolutely, but for most of the companies who have actual skilled software developers who know what the job is about will know that just as gender is completely irrelevant, or race or anything like that when we talk about software development, it's the same thing with age. Your age is not the thing that makes you a good software developer. What makes you a good software developer is your mind, your hunger, your passion. And that's why I tell people who start a little bit later in life. I mean, guys, I didn't start until I was 26, 28, something like that. That's when I started. So I was nervous as well because that's late because I spent like what, 5-6 years, more than that, like if you almost a decade, doing other stuff than going directly into programming, because I didn't know that I want to be a programmer at that time. And so a lot of people that I've met through my years of working who started later in life, they have been doing other stuff. And you look at that as a weakness because you can't code as well as some people have been coding for longer, which is true, absolutely. But you have other experiences that will show that you have a certain personal maturity, and that is the key thing. So you don't have skills. That's okay, because no junior does. But if you think about it, if you have the hunger, the passion, and the drive to actually switch, and the bravery to switch your career from something you're doing right now to something completely different, why would I hire the 20-something? The 20-something needs hand-holding, they need a lot of personal attention, etc., etc. And statistically, they're going to leave my company in 2 to 4 years. So actually hiring you, as long as I know that you have as I like to say, the fire in your eyes, that's the thing that matters when you're a junior. If you just do the bare minimum, I will not hire you. And most companies will not hire you. We don't give a shit about what courses you've taken. Guys, I've been in so many of these interviews where we have had master degree students who were useless. They had a degree and they could wipe their ass with it. And then we've had design students, in this case it was for a front-end position, design students, girls, in this case it was a girl, she had literally, she has a completely different education, and she realized that all important thing that most web designers realize, actually the developers, they always fuck up my design, so I want to build the code as well. And so she took some courses on top of her education, started learning, could produce results, and thought it was so interesting that she wanted to learn more. Guess who got the job? This is what you need to prove. And it does not matter which age you have. If you show that you have fire in your eyes and that you want this and that you have gone the extra mile, you are learning extra things on the side, you have your own projects, you tinker with things, you've tried to get into the industry, like you've done all this work to prove that someone should take a chance on you, I promise you, you actually have a benefit of being older, because as I said, just being older in of itself is more valuable to a company than youth, because we're not moving boxes, people. We're not like trying to run a marathon or anything like that where youth actually is a benefit. Youth is not a benefit in a field where knowledge, experience and passion and all this stuff is the thing that dictates how well things go. So I promise you, you are actually, in many cases, you're actually more likely to progress faster just because you are older when you get into the industry. You only have to prove, as I said, that this prejudice that older people have no passion, they're just sort of like trying to check out. I mean, guys, there are people who've been working in programming for 20 years, so-called seniors, that I would never hire. I would hire a junior before I hire them, because they don't care about the work. They couldn't give a shit about doing a good job or anything like that, and they try to use their experience to get new gigs. And when you talk with them for 5 minutes, you hear immediately that actually they're not that good. I can actually train someone who really cares about this and really wants it into something that is going to do the job that I need, and that person is going to even return my investment faster than this idiot who seems to have been given up on the on the entire reason why people want to hire them in the first place, and that is that they really know their stuff. And so it's really dangerous as an experienced software developer to get to a point where you have irrelevant skills and no passion. But as a junior, someone starting out, even if you're older, as long as you have the fire in your eyes, if you have the fire, you always have a shot. I promise you that much. So what I want you to take away from this is that no, you don't have to worry that people are going to treat you differently because you're older when you're a junior. You will be up for like some concerns or like these sorts of prejudices. Oh, you're so late, or like why did you start late, and so forth. But if you're 36 and my guess is that you've been doing something else, and that is a completely valid reason. And a lot of companies, a lot of regions of the world will not look at that as something super weird. In some cases, it's actually a pretty cool thing that you've shown the bravery to actually switch your career to something else. And the only thing you have to prove is the same thing the juniors have to prove, and that is that you have fire, that you care, that you do this because you want to be really good at it and you find it interesting, that this is more than just something you do the bare minimum in order to get a paycheck. Because that is the shit that's going to get you unemployed very, very quickly. And then you will probably figure out very quickly that when you get into most IT companies, there are absolutely people in their 20s, but the people making the decisions and most of the people running the show, they're in their 30s. Have a great day.